Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream. For those of you who are new to the group, welcome. We are studentloanjustice.org. We are the oldest, largest, first, and only, at this point, true grassroots group of significant size, fighting only, absolutely, for student loan justice. We've been around for way over, going on 18 years now, which is just insane and ridiculous. If this struggle was a child, this struggle would be almost ready for college. Think of that. So I hope everybody is doing well out there in the world. There's a lot going on right now. I play this song, I think it's by Foreigner, maybe, Cold as Ice. So let's talk about cruelty and Joe Biden, shall we? You know, I don't know, guys. Okay, let me back up. 3 weeks ago, I was 97% sure that the Biden administration was going to extend the student loan repayment pause. At this point, I have to say I'm something like only 49% sure. Like, I have a creeping, sneaking feeling that Joe Biden may be putting his foot down behind the scenes, and I think he may be saying, no, turn those loans back on. And that to me is baffling. Number one, it's political suicide for the Democrats. Number two, nobody's going to pay if and when they do turn the loans back on. A few people will. I think probably 15 or 20% of the people will pay. And then that will decline pretty quickly after that. So within about 5 or 6 months of turning on the lending program, I think maybe only 15% of the people will be paying. Even before this pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, 58.9% of everybody was not paying. So nearly 2/3 of all federal student loan borrowers were not paying before the pandemic pause, the repayment pause happened. So I think Joe Biden may be all in to completely betray us in the cruelest sort of way. And if you have any questions or comments, by the way, throw yours out. I'm very happy to read them aloud on air. By the way, guys, I'm just spitballing here. You know, I live and breathe this stuff, and I usually listen to my gut, and my gut is saying some very interesting things right now about Joe Biden. I don't think the Democrats so much are really into turning the loans back on. Certainly not the DNC. Certainly not Democrats in the House who face elections in November. But, oh boy, Joe Biden is certainly not a good guy on this topic, on this issue. He's got a lot of baggage going back decades, many decades, going back nearly 50 years, as a matter of fact. Going back to like 1976, 1977, where Joe Biden, as a junior senator, was a surprisingly key guy in getting bankruptcy protections taken away from student loans. As a junior senator from Delaware. So how cruel would that be? How cold would that be if Biden did that? I'm just saying. Now, obviously, if you were to look at the odds in Vegas, it would probably still be like 90% sure that they're going to extend the repayment pause. But I don't know, guys. Something in me. Anyways, if your spider senses are tingling also, I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts and your comments, and I will be very happy to read them aloud on Facebook if I can see them. And I can't always see them, by the way. But anyways, I hope everybody's doing well out there in the world. This is where we're at. We're fighting for two things: the return, and the most important thing by far, whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy, is the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. That is the first thing we're fighting for. It is way more important than loan cancellation. And here's why. Nobody wants to file for bankruptcy. It's a terrible thing to have to do. But the way the whole system and the dynamics are set up in Washington, D.C., the bad guys would love to do a fake student loan cancellation, like this up to $10,000 gimmick. It will come to almost nothing for almost everybody and absolutely nothing for many, as long as the threat, the specter, the tool of bankruptcy remains off the table. As long as bankruptcy remains gone, guys, and also statutes of limitations, I should say. But bankruptcy is the number one. As long as bankruptcy remains gone, they will continue to do these fake, nonsensical loan cancellations. And that's what they want. They want to keep this predatory, catastrophically failed, but yet still kind of functioning. They want to keep this lending beast going a few more miles down the road. And the best way they have to do that is to keep the constitutionally enshrined threat of bankruptcy gone from the loans. Then they can just pretend to cancel loans all day long, forever. We don't want that, ladies and gentlemen. We've been doing this for a long time, and we've learned all the hard lessons. We've seen all the tricks. And I am here to tell you that Joe Biden will not meaningfully cancel loans unless and until the threat of bankruptcy is back on the table. So whether you want your loans canceled completely, whether you want, I don't know, a break on interest or some other middling solution, whether you need to file for bankruptcy, whatever you want to see happen with your student loans, it all depends on us getting the threat of bankruptcy returned. We've been doing this for many years, guys, and many different times. We've been tricked by a fake loan cancellation gimmick as a cheap substitute for the bankruptcy protections that really should have never been taken away from student loans. So we're fighting for two things, guys: bankruptcy, and indeed, certainly since COVID, since before 6 months before COVID, we've been fighting for full-on cancellation by executive order of all federally owned student loans. And I'm very thrilled and proud to tell you that we are now, I think, the largest group of student loan borrowers in the nation, with like 1.3 or 4 million members across our petition and our Facebook and our email and all of our other social media platforms, which is good. But maybe the more important thing is that we have a great bill to fight for in the Senate right now, S-2598. It will return bankruptcy protections to federal student loans. Everything depends on this bill, guys. If we don't get this bill passed, we can't expect any kind of meaningful loan cancellation down the road for Biden, or maybe even any other president. I don't know. But we've got this great bill to fight for. And this bill would not be there but for the people on this group fighting for it. And by the way, we would not be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for this group and the petition that we started in March 2020, before almost anyone was talking about student loan cancellation by executive order. It's a very key wrinkle, that by executive order bit, because and if you're new to the group, so you know, Congress will never cancel federal student loans. They just won't. They can't. It's too expensive. They'll never pass a bill that raises $400 billion, $1 trillion more dollars to cancel loans. It just is never going to happen. The president, however, can cancel all federally owned loans, which is like 87% of all student debt. He can do that tomorrow without needing congressional approval, without needing one dime of money from the Treasury. So in other words, the president doesn't need any congressional appropriation. And by the way, this adds zero to the national debt. Some people say, oh, it's going to affect the deficit, but it probably isn't. But certainly nobody can argue that it will increase the national debt, because it will not. So anyways, the fact that both of those things are loan cancellation way more than bankruptcy, but the fact that we're talking about those two things in the public conversation now here today goes back to this group and our efforts. So everybody out there who's been with us through certainly the past 3 to 4 years as we've been fighting this battle, you all should be very proud of yourselves and be very stoked. And you know, I don't have to tell you that we, this group right here, we are the pioneers. We are the eye of the storm. In many ways, we are the storm. And even to this day, I have to say, if I could go off on a little rant, there's a lot of groups out there saying they're fighting for students, for student loan, whatever. None of those groups are fighting for bankruptcy, guys. And I'm telling you, that is the trick that has been played on us time and time again. Like, and I'm not going to start mentioning names like Student Debt Crisis, just fake groups out there. They will, if Joe Biden has a press conference tomorrow and say, hey, I'm going to cancel $10,000 in student loans, people like Student Debt Crisis, they will stand up and cheer and pop the champagne and say, victory, victory. Now we want total loan cancellation after this, but yeah, this is a huge victory. That's all bullshit, ladies and gentlemen. Pardon my French, but that's all bullshit. That's exactly what our opposition wants. They want to do a fake, meaningless, will get bureaucratized into nothingness loan cancellation as long as bankruptcy remains gone from the loans. Hear me now, believe me later. Hopefully believe me now. I know, particularly for some people who've been on the group for any length of time, more than say 5 or 6 years, I think you understand what I'm talking about at this point. So I won't belabor the point, but these other groups out there, they don't say one word about bankruptcy, and they don't say one word about S2598. And I'm telling you guys, that is frankly suspicious, because anybody who's studied this problem at all very quickly comes to the realization that, the core of this problem lies in the fact that bankruptcy remains uniquely gone from student loans. Every loan in this country has bankruptcy rights. Some are a little bit different from others. Home mortgages in a bankruptcy are slightly different from, say, a credit card, et cetera. They're a little bit different, but no loan in this country has been essentially stripped of these bankruptcy rights like student loans. This is the core of the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy does not matter. By the way, we've got to have the threat of bankruptcy back on our side. So we've got a great bill. We've got two things. We've got a great bill, S2598. It's in the Senate. It's bipartisan. It's perfect position to pass. After Biden does whatever he's going to do or not do, the Democrats and Biden, I still think that Biden may just has this cold streak in him, and I think he may just absolutely betray us. But we'll know by September 1st what Biden and the Democrats are going to do, what they aren't going to do. That will be the primest time for our bill, S2598. However, there's another thing, and this is very important. This is a very good workaround. And again, before he took office, Undersecretary of Education James Kval assured me that he would fight hard to stop, convince the Education Department to stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. Now, that's not as good as legislation, because, passing a law to get it done is always stronger and more permanent. But it is a very good workaround. It's a very good thing, put it that way. It will, for all intents and purposes, return bankruptcy protections to federal student loans. And we'll see what it looks like whenever they do what they're going to. So before James came into office, he assured me these things. Now that he's been in office, he has made similar commitments publicly, as has Richard Cordray, as has the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. So we fully expect the department to do something on that front. We expected it months ago. But we're going to need your help. And this is the most important action item I have for you tonight. We're going to need your help on this. It seems there is some resistance to this. And if rumors are true, this resistance is coming from the Justice Department. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds in this discussion. It gets a little wonky, but Merrick Garland's Justice Department, I'm not going to mention any other names, but there's some other people below him who are involved. They, rumor has it, and these are pretty true rumors, I think, that assistant U.S. attorneys within the Justice Department are dragging their feet / throwing a wrench in the works / doing nothing / whatever, putting a stop on this thing. where the Department of Education will stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. So we need to fight this right now, guys. It's critical time. So this coming Monday, we are going to be hitting Attorney General Merrick Garland very hard. We're going to be contacting the media. We're going to be doing Twitter stuff. We're going to be doing direct messages to the Attorney General through their website. It's going to be a 2 to maybe 3 day, maybe even week-long campaign for us. It's going to be a lot of moving parts. We're going to need you to be helping with that. So if getting student loans handled were important to you at all, if you were ever going to do anything for this fight, this coming week, starting Monday morning, would be when you need to put on your battle gear and get ready to start doing some actual effort, some actual work for us. By the way, everybody out there who has been doing our daily actions, for example, I salute you. We are the pioneers. We are the veterans. We are the hardened, chiseled, old soldiers who have got the scars on our knuckles to prove. I salute you, and you should all be very proud. And I know I don't even have to tell you guys to keep fighting, because you just will. Everybody else out there, you need to get off your ass. We're not going to solve this problem for you. We are all distressed student loan borrowers, just like you. And you are not better than us. You are not better than us. You cannot sit back and polish your nails and cheerlead and wait and watch and worry and twiddle your thumbs and expect that anything good is going to happen. We're going to need your help on this. This is not a watch it happen movement, guys. This is a working, fighting group. If you didn't come into this group to help us fight, then really you don't even need to be here. So if getting the student loan problem solved is at all important to you, then this coming week would be when you can finally, if you haven't done anything up to this point, when you can finally turn over a new leaf, join us and fight this very good fight. In fact, for the next 5 weeks, it will be the most critical time in the history of our organization. So you need to be helping if you're serious at all about getting these loans handled. Do you not want these loans gone? I want them gone. I'm a distressed borrower, just like you. In fact, I'm a defaulted borrower, just like many people in this group. I want these loans gone. I want to take this banner behind me, and I want to throw it maybe in a museum, but probably just in the garbage. I want to get on with my life. Do you not agree? So will you not help us starting this coming Monday? And remember, this all comes down to doing our daily actions. Let me click that in for you. So yeah, guys, this is one prong of a 3-prong battle. The one prong is getting the education department to stop opposing student loan borrowers in bankruptcy court. That's the kind of the easiest prong. Second prong is getting Congress to pass S-2598. The third prong is getting these damned loans canceled. And I can virtually guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, when we get the threat of bankruptcy returned to these loans, it is a fairly direct path between that and seeing the president or the Secretary of Education broadly, meaningfully, perhaps even totally cancel student loans. It's not going to happen before then. So we are on exactly the right path in this battle, and I hope that you can appreciate that fact. And I'm not going to beg you, because these are your loans, and this is your problem, and this is your livelihood on the line. So tell everyone you know, if they have student loans, they need to be in this group. I don't know of any other groups that are fighting the right fight. We can call for loan cancellation all day long, and it gets sucked up into the media, and it gets turned into this bullshit left versus right partisan food fight with all, and the media plays into this completely. They'll put these blue-haired young liberals at colleges, they'll cancel loans, and then they'll Fox News will counter that with a bunch of, redneck cowboys. Hey, when I put my way through college, I'm going to pay your loan. And guys, that's just stupid. It's a false narrative that's being thrown upon us. So I'm sorry for lagging. I'm looking for your comments right now. I promise, guys. I know there are quite a few people here tonight. So, by the way, thanks to Lisa in Los Angeles. She got a really good interview for us done with one of the news organizations. I'm not going to say anything more than that right now. I think it will be airing very shortly, and I will have more to say about that. But guys, what Lisa did, you can do. We can be doing interviews with local media all day long. Seriously, I mean, this is what we're good at. We've been sharpening this sword for years now, decades now, I'm sorry to say, but we are ready to go and talk to any and all media. Your local media is perfect. You can call your local news station, your local newspaper, your local radio station, and say, you should really have this group on. They've been fighting for student loan justice for many years. They're fighting for loan cancellation. They're fighting for the return of standard consumer protections to student loans. They have people in our area, our community, who have been devastated by these loans, and they are willing to be interviewed. You can do that, and it's a pretty good chance if you do that to 10 news organizations in your area, you can probably get at least one, if not more of them, to actually do a story. This is how the battle is won, ladies and gentlemen. So anyways, go to our daily actions. And part of that is baked into one of our a few of our daily actions over the past week. This starts with you guys. You have no idea how important you are. Okay, I'm finally getting to all your comments. I'm looking for your comments. I cannot emphasize how important you are and how important your efforts, you sitting there, are. It only takes one person to get a news thing done. You could be that person. It only takes one person to convince a Republican senator to co-sponsor S-2598. You could be that person. It only takes one person to convince a governor, say Ron DeSantis, that their states are being ruined by this federal debt and that they should be joining us and calling on the president to cancel student loans. You could be that person. You could save the world. A lot is riding on this, guys. It's not only just your loans. All right. Sorry, guys. Hey, Vanjie is with us tonight. Hey, Vanjie. Vanjie says, yes, bankruptcy battle all the way because cancellation is just a game, capital GAME. Yeah, cancellation as long as bankruptcy remains gone is fake. It's a gimmick. It won't be anything for anyone. Trust me, guys. Hey, Doug from Indiana's here with us tonight. Joanna's with us. Hey, Joanna from Florida. Speaking of Ron DeSantis in Florida, Florida's a very important state. Doug says this bill must be passed this session. Key point, Doug. Thank you. S-2598 must pass by the end of the year. So we have like August, September, October, November, December. We have 4 months. But guys, honestly, I think the Democrats are going to do whatever they're going to do before early voting starts in October. And by the way, we're a nonpartisan group, guys. If you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, you're very welcome here. We pretty much hate both parties, to be quite honest with you. But whatever your political stripes are, you are very welcome here on this group here tonight. But yeah, our bill has to get passed by the end of the year. But realistically, it's probably going to happen or not happen before the first week in October. So I'm telling you guys, the next 5 weeks are absolutely key and critical. Doug Grossman says, Warren and Schumer have become completely silent lately. Very disturbing. Yeah, Doug, here's the story. So we started the petition calling for student loan cancellation by executive order in March 2020. 6 months later, right as we were blowing up in the media, and I mean blowing up on Newsweek and Fox and all the networks, all of a sudden, Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer stand up and they introduce a bill in the Senate calling on then President Trump to cancel student loans by executive order. But unfortunately, and we're thrilled that they did, truly thrilled. Hats off to Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer for doing that. But guys, they politicized it. They sort of bastardized it. First of all, they put a $50,000 cancellation limit, an upper limit on the cancellation, $50,000, which makes absolutely no sense at all. And really, just being who they are, they turned it into a political football to where the Republicans just went to one side of the room and all the Democrats went to the other side of the room. And that is what happened. It became politicized. It's stupid. Over half of student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent, guys. I'm telling you. This is not a partisan issue, but that's what happened. So, and lately they've been quiet. I don't think even they know what to do. What really troubles me, and this really gets down to a very long history we have with Elizabeth Warren. Senator Warren taught bankruptcy law at Harvard for many years. She's one of the nation's foremost bankruptcy experts in the country. In fact, Elizabeth Warren's very first foray in the national spotlight was a key 60 Minutes interview in May 2006. And this group, me and 4 people from our group, we were the featured anchor sort of guests interview in that story. And Elizabeth Warren was at that time a professor at Harvard. It was her very first splash in the national spotlight. And she nailed it back then. She said all the right things. And here we are now, however many years later, 16, 17 years later, Elizabeth Warren won't even come out and say whether she is for S2598 or not. It is baffling. If anybody should be leading the fight for bankruptcy, it's not us. It should be Elizabeth Warren. So here we have Elizabeth Warren touting some sort of fake, gimmicky, up to $50,000 untrustworthy loan cancellation gimmick. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren, just to add a little fuel to the fire, she is praising this proposal to take student loans out of default like it's the best thing since sliced bread, and it's not. It's a trick. This yanking loans out of default, it's really nothing more than like loan rehabilitation, which has been happening for decades. Well, the dirty little secret, guys, is that somewhere around 75% of these rehabilitated, in other words, taken out of default loans, they default again 75% of the time. So I don't know what Elizabeth Warren's doing, Doug. It seems to me like the swamp may have their hooks into her, the establishment, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, the bad guys that would love to perpetuate this lending system upon us. Their hooks into her, the establishment. So, we don't trust politicians further than we can bowl them, guys, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. And I have to tell it like it is. As I said, we're a fiercely nonpartisan group. If you're a strong Democrat, you live with Elizabeth Warren, I'm really sorry to have to say that about her, guys, but it's the truth. And I am sorry to have to say that about her because she should be our champion. And we for many years, we trusted that she would be our champion. And now she's in exactly the right spot to be our champion. And she is essentially missing in action. So Doug also says, everyone must know that Mohila has now taken over loans from anyone who has tried to take advantage of the public service loan forgiveness waiver without their permission from other lenders. Yeah, Doug, it's the Wild West right now. What you say, I think, is true. I think that's true. But the lending system is falling apart, ladies and gentlemen. The lending system is vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy as we speak. It is the Wild West out there. The 2 largest servers in the nation, Navy and FIA, which is Fed Loan Servicing, they quit. I think they're afraid of getting sued, quite frankly, because they've done so many terrible things to us, but whatever. It is the Wild West out there, guys, and we are the unfortunate witnesses to the death spiral, the death throes. Fortunately, unfortunately, I think fortunately, we are witnessing the slow, tortured death of the federal student loan program, guys. Remember this. If you forget everything I say tonight, well, don't forget it. Don't forget anything I said tonight, but remember this. Before the pandemic, most people were not paying on their loans. Today, now, here, during, or maybe slightly after the pandemic, almost nobody is paying on their loans. And inflation is bad. Our costs have gone up. And if you think that more than about 15 or 20% of the borrowers are going to resume paying their loans whenever they try and turn the lending system back on, you're smoking something. It's not going to happen. This lending system is toast. Nobody in Washington, D.C. knows what to do. The servicers don't know what to do. Nobody knows because lending systems don't fail very often. They do fail. Don't get me wrong. In fact, if you take a step back and you look at U.S. and world history, you'll find that lending systems fail all the time. Even in this country, subprime home mortgages of 12 years ago, going back to 85, the S&L scandal, where a third of all savings and loan banks in this country literally folded and closed their doors. Look at all of Europe post 1944 or so. And that wasn't just lending systems, that was entire monetary systems and indeed entire countries. So in the grand scheme of things, guys, it's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of a new thing in Washington, I think. But don't trip, guys. It's not your fault. Maybe that's one of the more important emotional things that I can tell you tonight. We did not wreck this lending system, ladies and gentlemen. This lending scam, and it is a scam, it's unconstitutional. The founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution. This lending scam tried to wreck us. Don't forget that. We did not break this thing. This thing tried to break us. And it's still trying, by the way. But guys, student loans are essentially one big national joke at this point. Quite frankly, the people in Washington, D.C. are petrified at the thought of turning this lending program back on because they know what's going to happen. And what's going to happen is what I just said. Almost nobody's going to pay. That's what's going to happen. Student loans are a national joke. And the longer the Democrats, or Joe Biden, I should say, waits, the worse it's going to get for them. There's no return. The lending system is toast. But for the lack of courage in Washington, D.C., but for the bad politics in Washington, D.C., Joe Biden, in fact, I'd say Donald Trump would have canceled this entire lending program back when COVID first happened. Really, that's what needs to happen. The lending system is toast. It's finished. It's done. And sooner or later, someone's going to have to recognize that fact, I think. The lending system has to be replaced, guys. It's got to be ended and canceled. If Joe Biden were smart, and I'm not saying he is, in fact, I don't think he is at all, but if he were, he would immediately suspend the federal loan program. In other words, no new loans going forward, no new loans. He would use a year or so, put the colleges on direct, I would say reduced funding for, let's say, a year. And during that year, task his Department of Education to come up with and Congress to come up with a fair, rationally priced funding model for higher education. Like, that's what any honest, intellectually honest, otherwise honest person would do. And quite frankly, I think that would be great politics, because people out there sort of can appreciate a politician who tells the truth. I know it's rare, but this lending system is just done. It's just done. Yeah, Britt is complaining about getting through this public service loan forgiveness waiver. Guys, don't count on public service. Just don't. We were saying this many years ago, and lo and behold, yeah, we saw a 99% disqualification rate. And I'm saying it again, guys. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say I told you so over so many different topics on the student loan fucking fiasco, pardon my French. But guys, I'm going to say it again. Do not trust even this revamped waiver for public service. The Department of Education has no desire or intentions of canceling any loans unless they absolutely have to. This is how they roll. This is how they've always rolled. And I wish that people would have listened to me like 10 or 15 years ago. When this program first got rolled out, we said, oh, watch out, guys, watch out. 10 years ago, we said, guys, it's not going to be what you think. Very few people will actually make it through. 5 years ago, finally, evidence started coming forward showing that, oh, yeah, indeed. Almost nobody's making it through. Not just public service, but IBR, income contingent repayment, pay as you earn, repay. Nobody is making it through these programs. No one, almost no one. 99% disqualification rate. And I'm saying it here again for you tonight. I don't care I don't care about this public service waiver. Trust me and believe me when I tell you the Department of Education will do everything possible to not cancel loans. They will baffle, they will bamboozle, they will lose paperwork, they will do whatever they can do to not cancel loans. Now, we're seeing stories trotted out, and I agree, we have people in our group even who have indeed gotten their loans finally canceled through public service. But guys, the media will take a nickel like that and throw it around like it's a silver dollar. No, they will throw that nickel around like it is a fucking manhole cover. So while very few people actually get their loans canceled, a statistically insignificant number of people, they will throw these stories out, these few and far between stories, like they're the biggest story of the decade in student loans. And yet at the end of the day, very few people will get their loans canceled. Like, and even if like the 500,000 people who have applied, I believe, for public service, even if every single one of them got their loans canceled, that would still be like 1% of all borrowers. Right now, we're looking at 0.02%. So guys, just don't trust any of these programs. And remember, guys, this all gets back to bankruptcy. Unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back, we will never see a meaningful percentage of people make it through any of these income-driven repayment programs, including public service. It will just not happen. Only when we get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side can we expect these IDR gimmicks to perform anywhere close to how they are advertised. All comes back to bankruptcy, guys. Nobody wants to file, least of all you, least of all me. We've got to get bankruptcy back. This is the group. We are fighting the right battle, guys. We're not trying to hog all the limelight. Oh, cancel student loans, cancel student loans. That's bullshit. Obviously, we are 1,000% for canceling student loans, but we know how that's going to happen and how that's not going to happen. And I'm sorry to say that not even any of the other groups, but for the National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys, and they're not a citizens group. They're kind of a behind the scenes lobbying organization. No other group out there that you're likely to come across in the student loan space is even mentioning bankruptcy. You should ask them, by the way. You should hold their leaders to account, and you should ask them strongly and force them to explain why they are not fighting for S2598. Those people ought to be ashamed of themselves. They know better. And I'm talking about all the groups, you name it, Student Debt Crisis, Debt Collective, the Young Invincibles, fucking fake group. And, you know, some of the groups including the groups that I just mentioned, we have found them to have leading people in their group from a lobbying firm called the DCI group. And I'm talking specifically about Student Debt Crisis, and I'm talking about the Young Invincibles. We found them to have people on their staff that had come from the war room of the DCI group. Google that. Google DCI group and SourceWatch. It's called AstroTurf, ladies and gentlemen. It's called fake grassroots groups started by banks, by insurance companies, by energy companies, by tobacco companies, by even foreign governments sometimes. We're talking about the corporate game at tricking the public through something called AstroTurf. We have found AstroTurf operatives operating in both Student Debt Crisis and the Young Invincibles, for example. I don't trust those groups. They're not trustworthy. They're fake. So whatever, guys, that's enough. That's enough of that. Just be smart. Think about things. Think critically. Please think critically. And ask the leaders of those groups the very tough questions. You can ask us all the tough policy questions all day long. We don't run and hide from any questions. They do. So if you ask them about bankruptcy, why they're so quiet, and they kind of give you a kind of a blow-off answer, yeah, I'm telling you guys, they're not fighting for us. They're fighting against us. Anyways, all right, guys, I'm going to leave it there at that. Sorry to get so heavy towards the end there. I've never been more optimistic than I am right now, guys. We stand on the verge of actual victory. You can't unhear that. We need you. At a minimum, do our daily actions. They take a minute, sometimes maybe 2 minutes per day. It's the least you can do if you want to help. Your loans, your livelihood hangs in the balance of this fight right here. And don't think you can sit back and student debt crisis is going to solve this problem for you. Ain't going to happen. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to put your own time in on this block. And to everybody out there who's been doing the hard work, I salute you. Britt and Rick and Doug and everybody else. And I appreciate you, and we have a lot to be proud of, but we've still got just that last little hump to get over. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see it. I can smell it. I can hear it. Well, not literally, but we're close, guys. We're close. We've never been closer. And so you better strap it on, and you better find a way, find whatever psychological trick you can think of to get jacked for this fight. It feels very good to fight this fight, by the way. There are 44 million people on our side, whether they know it or not, with federal student loans. There are hundreds of millions of people, some of whom aren't even born yet, who are on our side, whether they know it or not, or whether they're even in the world or not yet. But even more than that, this student loan thing is the camel's nose under the tent, guys. It's a grave injustice. And if they can do to other loans what they did to student loans, they will. They will take bankruptcy rights away from medical debt. They'll take bankruptcy rights from credit card debt. They will take bankruptcy rights and maybe even statutes of limitations away from all consumer debt if they can possibly find a way to do it. And if we let this student loan injustice stand, that's what's going to happen. So not to put any more pressure on you guys, but come on, let's roll. We got this. And when you help, we will win. So I'll be back on Sunday. It all comes down to you using your time over these next 6 weeks, doing our daily actions at a very minimum. Take it seriously. We do. And we need you. So I'll see you on Sunday. Good luck, everyone. Have a great weekend. Godspeed. God bless everyone.